So in the midst of the aftermath of the events yesterday regarding Charlie Kirk, I have seen friends, family, people that I don't, the people I consider associates, everybody just post about it to some degree. And one thing that I've seen that kind of just makes my ears perk up a little bit is when people are saying things like, "Oh, if you support what happened yesterday, if you support what happened to him, then go ahead and unfriend me. Go ahead and delete me. This, that, and the third, yada yada." And I feel like it's a fucking joke to some extent. And let me elaborate. Stay with me. I'm gonna give you an example because I work in childcare, and then you do with that example what you please, and I'll slightly expand upon it. So, if there's a child that is just incredibly rambunctious, they are a disruption. They are malicious, things of that nature. A lot of the times, as educators, what we try to do is we try to talk to the parent, figure out what's going on at home. How can we support each other to give the child what they need to be successful, to be able to have a good home life, a good school life, to be happy, healthy, and productive in the best way possible that is suited to that child's needs. Now, if there is a disconnect in that communication with the parent and a lack in consistency at home with what we're trying to implement, then that creates an issue, right? So if there's a disconnect there, the child is going to act up at school. If there's a disconnect at school, the child's going to act up in public, and everybody is going to reap that. Everybody is going to have to get through that, and then eventually get to the point where some teachers lose their patience, and I'm not justifying this, but they'll sit there and they'll be like, "Oh man, so and so's coming," and it just creates this aura of not fear, but they just don't want to deal with the child, right? And so whether that's justified or not is a whole different conversation. Eventually, the parent will be like, "Oh, well, it's not an issue, yada yada," until it's back on their doorstep. And when the child comes back and they've wreaked havoc across the world and done what they've done in the outside world in public, they're eventually going to bring it back home. They're going to turn it inward, and that parent's going to be like, "Well, what the hell do I do? Because now I have to deal with this problem that I didn't want to deal with eventually." Where am I going with this? Charlie Kirk was the parent that didn't want to deal with the child, certain weapons being used and being okay, and Second Amendment, yada yada woo. You wanted to encourage it until it turned back on you. And I think people are forgetting the karmatic irony that is at play right now. I am not justifying anything. I am not saying anybody deserved anything. I am not putting my own implicit bias into this. I am, however, looking at the facts. And facts don't give a fuck about your feelings. And the facts are, this individual said terrible things about dead kids. This individual said terrible things about marginalized groups. This individual said terrible things about women. They said terrible things about people in other countries that are dealing with horrible, horrible amounts of death and war and famine due to our actions regarding certain amendments, certain laws, certain stances. This individual completely justified those things, stood by them, joked about them, and a sliver of that same energy came back to him. Deserve is not a word that I would use. Created and was a part of the cycle is a phrase that I would consider. When you put out a certain type of energy, you're gonna get it back. You are gonna, that's just how the world works. You're gonna get it back. And I'm not saying anything was deserved. And I think a lot of you are so worried about being humanitarians and being like, "Oh, the loss of life. These individuals that are saying that, I haven't heard them say shit about Palestine. I haven't heard them say shit about dead black people that one damn summer. It's still continuous, but you know what I mean. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. These same individuals aren't talking about what's happening to the LGBTQ plus community. These same individuals aren't talking about the ICE raids. But Charlie Kirk is when you wave your humanitarian flag and care about the loss of life. I say all of this to say, people are interesting, media literacy is dead, and eat the rich.